Today, the RBA delivered its June cash rate decision, bringing it to 4.1%, the highest it's been in 11 years. It's a rate rise sure to hurt millions of Australians, but Treasurer Jim Chalmers said these decisions were part of the job of the RBA to bring down inflation.
I do expect that there will be a lot of Australians who will find this decision difficult to understand and difficult to cop. The Reserve Bank's job is to squash inflation without crunching the economy, and they will have lots of opportunities, of course, to explain and defend the decision that they've taken today.
All right, let's bring in now our business editor and host of Business Now. This is right before my show, 4:30 every single day in Sky News, Ross Greenwood. Ross, I want to get into those comments about what the Treasurer said in the moment. Are we at the point when we're crunching the economy? But first, you've got breaking news for us now on whether the banks are starting to pass on this rate rise.
Yeah, indeed they are. We've just heard in the last few minutes from Westpac, which is going to pass those rate rises on in full. Now, just to explain, the rack rate, if you just simply turn up to get a home loan at Westpac with principal and interest, is going to be above 8% rather, almost 8.3% is what it will be. So you've got to negotiate pretty hard. I should also say there's an introductory offer for the first couple of years, which is about 5.6%, which most people going in would get. But as I say, if you do absolutely nothing and you do not be aggressive in terms of shopping around, that's the rate the people are now confronting, is 8.33% after this rate rise is passed along in around 10 days' time. So, this is the type of pain that's come, because a typical family these days, $750,000 mortgage, all of these rate rises, the 12 rate rises you talked about, and now accumulate to around $23,000 in extra payments those people are having to make after tax money that they're having to come up with simply to keep up with their mortgage, let alone their electricity bill, their grocery bill, every other bill that's going up at the same time. And that's really where it's starting to hurt many Australian families.
Massive. And at the same time, we've got higher bracket creep than ever. Ross, I want you to cut through the spin for us, because we've heard the opposition come out today. We've heard Shadow Treasurer Angus Taylor. He held a press conference this afternoon, and he said this rate rise is the government's fault. He said it's because of their inflationary budget, because of their decision to raise the minimum wage, because of their high spending. Jim Chalmers there is saying this has got nothing to do with the budget. We heard that Philip Lowe, even in Senate estimates, say that the budget wasn't inflationary and that this is simply another measure to bring down inflation. Well, who's telling the truth here?
OK, so it is true to say that both Philip Lowe and also the Treasury Secretary, Steve Kennedy, both indicated that the budget broadly is not inflationary. So long as it hits all of its targets, that's the other small, caveat to all of that. But then it comes to the wages issue, because even though Jim Chalmers today indicated that really Philip Lowe continues to say there is no wages price spiral, it really is a situation whereby in the note that was put out by Philip Lowe today, they then say wage growth has picked up in response to the tight labour market and high inflation. Yes, that's true. Growth in public sector wages is expected to pick up further, and the annual increase in award wages was higher than it was last year. In other words, that went into the thinking of the Reserve Bank in raising interest rates again. They were spooked by what they saw last week. They were spooked by the monthly inflation rate that came in at 6.9%, which went up, it didn't go down. And so they're really concerned that now inflation is starting to get out into Australia's economy, not just in wages, but also in the services sector, because that's where it's very difficult to dislodge it. Remember, this is the same Reserve Bank that said 2 months ago, we're going to keep these rates on hold because we don't think they've got much further to go. Well, now they've gone bang, bang in 2 consecutive months, because they're seeing something in inflation that is more sticky than they would like. And that's the reason why these rates are rising right now.
And that's what's so concerning if we do get entrenched inflation around the 5 to 6% level. I mean, it would be good if it even came down to 5%. At the moment, it's still at 6.8%. But Ross, the Treasurer almost sending a message to the RBA Governor in his comments that he wants to bring down inflation, that the RBA needs to bring down inflation without crunching the economy. Are you worried that the RBA can't walk that fine line and that we might get to a point when, our economy just does slow too much in the second half of this year?
Well, it's so true, because you talk about the fine line. Well, the Reserve Bank Governor, Philip Lowe, talks about the narrow path. Well, the reality is, as these rates rise, that path is not only narrow, but it's becoming very slippery. And as a result, the odds of a recession are now starting to rise in Australia. It was always expected that Australia's economy would cool in the second half of this year, but it would not go into recession because it wouldn't really fall that far. The problem is, as these rate rises keep on going, and likely will continue, then the harder landing for Australia's economy becomes a reality. And you can see that even in the bond markets that are now pricing in short-term interest rates higher than long-term interest rates. And that's one small signal. The Australian Industry Group today said that the odds of a recession in Australia right now are shortening. Now, this is not to alarm people. This is just the pure reality of what happens when you have inflation really out of control in your economy, and the Reserve Bank has to keep raising rates, even at a time when our economy is softening. And that's where the danger for the outlook for Australia's economy becomes. And also, therefore, clearly there are some businesses and households that are going to be far more affected by this than others. And that is, if you like, the way in which the Reserve Bank and even the government have got to view this.
Yeah, look, it's so troubling. Ross Greenwood, thank you as always for cutting through all of the spin and for your insights. Really appreciate it.